Professor Walter Nosh had to head for
Hello,
the.
good morning, Jose.
Yeah, good morning. Professor Damilola Alawi had to head for the airport, and the same with Professor Nosh. So we would try to modify the session a bit so we'll go first with the title of the session is kind of like a general overview about the book and some conclusions that are drawn from the book. So first we'll start with Professor Gonzalez. And before we start, I would like to tell you about Professor Gonzalez and his research. So just a second. So Professor Gonzalez is a distinguished academic and legal expert in environmental law. He holds a JD and an LLM in economic law and a PhD in environmental law. He's a full professor at the Metropolitan Autonomous University, Mexico. He teaches Professor Gonzalez Institute for Environmental Law Research and directs the Mexican Environmental Law Journal. He's a level 3 fellow of the Mexico National Research System and a member of the IUCN Academy of Environmental Laws Governing Council and advises the government agency. He has drafted Mexico City Environmental Act in 1999. He has authored numerous books and articles on environmental tax and energy law and leads the economic law and sustainability research program. His contribution include organizing the 2008 IUCN Environmental Law Colloquium and serving on several editorial boards of renowned law journals. Thank you very much, Professor Gonzalez, for joining us. The floor is yours. You can please share your screen. Thank you.
So, good morning. Here in Mexico it's night, but I think in Nigeria it's the morning. I'm not sure. Let's talk about the conclusions of our book. I think that the analysis that we, the authors and editors, conducted in this book, in the 22 chapters of this book, allows us to conclude the following. First, there are many causes that explain the failure of the energy policies around the world in the different countries, but without any doubt, one of the main causes of such energy policy failure is the regulatory fragmentation. In fact, in page 355 of the book, we can read the following. The literature on energy policy failure recognizes regulatory fragmentation as one of the key causes of energy policy failure. No? What I mean I saw that somebody's joining us. Is everything okay? Can you hear me well?
Can you see the slides?
Yes, I see the slides. So, thank you, Mr. So, what I said that one of the causes of the energy policy failure is the lack of comprehensive global standard to net zero and the requirements for achieving it. So I mean that there are too many actors, not only governments, also private corporations that committed to comply with the Paris Agreement. Countries, for instance, are obliged to submit each 5 years in their national determined contributions, and this is perhaps the most important commitment adopted in Paris Agreement. But at the end of the day, these national determined contributions could say whatever any country want to say. They commit to whatever they want to commit, but there is no mechanism to oblige them to comply. So somebody says that it seems like the commitment of submitting this national money contribution could be considered as a hard law, but the content of the contribution, the national determined contribution, is simply soft law. Countries can commit to whatever they want to commit and then not to comply. And this could be the case of my country. My country is Mexico. my government has assumed a lot of commitments under the Paris Agreement, but in practice, nothing has been done in the direction to comply with such commitments. And I think it happens with many countries in Latin America, perhaps in Africa, and in other dimensions of the world. Another cause of energy policy failure is the disconnection between net zero targets and natural resources legislation, contracts, and regulatory and risk management frameworks in the different countries. There are too many plans, but such plans in practice mean nothing. The reality is another. The plans goes on the left and the reality goes on the right. So this is a real problem. No, the book says that this disconnection between net zero targets and natural resources legislation, contracts, regulations, and risk management frameworks, no, is causing this failure in the energy policies around the world. No? And the book contains analysis, interesting analysis in this regard in chapter 4, in chapter 5. No? I don't want to reproduce what they said, but just to mention that this is another driver that is causing this failure of energy policy in many countries. And the third driver of this energy policy failure is the rapid rise in protectionism. And I could add protectionism and nationalism. For instance, in my country, the main concern for the government is not the energy transition. This is not the real goal of my country or my government's country, but they are trying to go back to those times when the energy sector was the force that pushed the economic development. So I mean that my government is trying to reestablish the governmental monopoly on energy industry. You know? During the last 10 years, my country had started a process of opening the energy sector to private investment with the idea of modernize the energy sector and with the idea of include more energy, clean energies into the energy matrix. But in 2018, when a new government arrived to the power in Mexico, they started a new process addressed to establish the public monopoly on energy industry. And this continues with the new government. We recently changed the government in Mexico. We had elections and a woman, for first time, a woman won the elections, and she is now the new president of Mexico, and she is planning to continue with the energy policy that the former president of Mexico started in 2018, and this policy, unfortunately, is not in the idea of transiting to net zero emissions for 2050. In fact, Mexico has not adopted such commitment in any document, in any law. So this return to the nationalism in energy sector is also one of the causes that explains the failure of the energy policy in many countries in the world, particularly in the case of Mexico. No? Finally, according to what the editors concludes in the book, the full cause of for driver of that explains this energy policy failure is the lack of clear frameworks in many jurisdictions to integrate and promote new technologies such as green hydrogen, but I could include also such as energy storage. I think that one of the requirements for energy transition for this more participation of energy, clean energies in the energy matrix is the energy storage. Without technologies to storage energy transition is impossible. And for many countries, energy storage is something really new. I think it happened in my country, and I think it could happen in Colombia. I don't know what is the opinion of Milton, but I think in almost all Latin American countries, technologies for storage energy are something strange. And our legislations don't refer to this issue, and I think that it is very important. And also, this idea of generating electricity in the site where this energy is consumed is very important because there is a principle that says energy needs to be consumed in the moment it is produced, or if not, it will lost. No, so in my country, for instance, we have huge generation plants around the territory of the country, but this energy needs to be transported from the point where it is generated to the point where it is consumed, and it has a tremendous cost, and part of the energy is lost. So the solution could be new technologies to produce energy in the point where it will be consumed, um, and also to have the capacity of storage in this energy to be consumed in a better moment. I mean, we can generate electricity during the day to consume it at night, but at night is more expensive energy. So it's better to storage the energy produced during the day to be consumed at night with a lower cost. So I think in this area of technologies, new technologies for new energies is very important, and we can't not see this in our legislations. And when I say our, I mean not only Latin American legislations, but in around the world, in different countries, these technologies has been not adopted completely. So I think these four drivers, among others, of course, can explain why the energy policy is failing, and also could be the cause of the failure of the energy policies adopted in the Paris Agreement, postulated by the Paris Agreement. Thank you so much. I conclude with that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Yuse. We're going to take questions, but before that,